Now, throughout the week, our business news anchor Frances Hurd has been monitoring the impact that the impending cabinet reshuffle would have on the rand. She now joins us on the line. Frances, thank you so much for joining us. Now, you did a very interesting graphic earlier on in the week looking at what happens to the rand when such things happen. We saw, the rand dropping when Minister Pravin Gordhan was called back to the country from London. Just give us your take in terms of what we can see going forward in terms of the rand.
Okay, well, let's start with what's happened just over the last few hours. And I've been looking at the latest graphs. And the rand started, firstly, it was up today. And it's really been on a seesaw ride, but possibly reacting to those reports of a opposition within the ANC to the finance minister being fired. So the rand was very strong, more than 1.5% stronger against the dollar today. But it started weakening at about 8 o'clock, and I've looked, and if you look at the graph, there's almost a vertical jump. That was at about 20 past 9 when the stories started coming thick and fast of a cabinet reshuffle. And I can tell you the difference from that height, that peak where we were, which was 12 Rand 90 or so to the dollar, to where we are now, about 13 Rand 27, is a difference of about 3%. So the rand has weakened by 3% just since 8 o'clock tonight. And just to make things a little bit, I hope not too confusing, but remember that we were 1.5% stronger. We're now 1.5% weaker against the dollar according to the last close. But that huge difference between where we came from at 8 o'clock and now is 3%. And it seems to be an even bigger reaction on the part of the currency than what we saw when the then Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene was let go in 2015. And then we saw the rand starting to decline, and over a few days it was a huge decline by about 6%. But on the first day, I think it was around about 1.5%. So what we're seeing now, on the initial look of things and the reaction of the rand, is an even stronger reaction to this reshuffle than to that somewhat more surprising reshuffle in 2015.
Now, Frances, just looking at, you referred to when the percentages, the loss and the increase of the rand against the dollar and other currencies. Just looking back and going back to when former Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene was removed and Minister Des van Rooyen was put in his role, and then there was where current Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan had to be brought back to this portfolio of Finance Minister Treasury, which is a very key portfolio for any economy, for any country. Who do you think, if at all Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan is reshuffled or is axed, who do you think may be likely to replace him in this portfolio?
Well, names have gone around. One strong candidate has been the former CEO of Eskom, Brian Molefe, and global investors are looking at the names. We spoke to somebody from Standard Chartered Bank earlier today, an investor based in London. And remember, a lot of our rand trade is by global investors. So what they think affects our currency. It's one of the most liquid currencies in the world. It's often seen as a proxy for emerging markets and things like that. So they've heard the name Brian Molefe, and she was saying there are problems with credibility. Of course, he was mentioned in the state capture report, the SABC, today, saying that they believe he's not the man for the job. So that in itself is affecting things, but I think more than anything is the credibility of Pravin Gordhan himself. So he's been seen as key in helping South Africa avoid a credit rating downgrade. He kind of rallied the troops, and business and labor was supporting him in that, in going on these road shows abroad. And remember, he was recalled from that those are more frequent since the firing of Nhlanhla Nene in 2015. So yes, I think global investors have become a lot more astute about South African politics, and they are talking about the minutiae of our politics, getting down to the names and who is believed to be credible and who is not. And I think those two names, the credibility that Pravin Gordhan has especially, really makes this quite a shocking move, I guess, in the eyes of many investors who believe that he was steering the economy in a good way. He was doing the right things. They applauded his budget and things like that. And we've seen before, exactly as you say, the rand very sensitive to any talk of Pravin Gordhan being removed. We saw first the rand plunge in 2015 with Nhlanhla Nene being removed. 4 days later, Pravin Gordhan was returned to the post and the rand surged by nearly 5%. Then we saw again last year when there were investigations into Pravin Gordhan announced, the rand goes down. When the charges were dropped, the rand goes up. When he came back from a roadshow, the rand goes down, and then it came back up again on other rumors. But tonight, it's reacting once more in a very extreme way to the reports of this latest cabinet reshuffle.
Francis, just to perhaps wrap up and maybe look at some of the things that you said. I mean, a word that constantly comes up in describing Pravin Gordhan is competence. And earlier on, we were speaking to a political analyst saying that essentially, when you look at how markets react, it's more about the president and who he's choosing. So it's not necessarily, this is not about Pravin. So, because a lot of the time it's as if, Pravin is hailed as the best minister in the world, etc. And he's done really well. But markets generally look at what the president is doing and his credibility and his levels of competence. So your take on that in terms of markets just generally reacting to anything the president does?
All right, so I think that this is a key issue that's come up in recent days. Are we focusing too much on the individual? And our colleague Peter, speaking to various guests this week, bringing that thing up. And in fact, it's not about individuals. And a great example was when Nhlanhla Nene was introduced to the job of finance minister. There wasn't this huge fallout on the market then. But what commentators were saying is that he had been groomed for the job. He was the deputy. He had that gravitas behind him. People understood the rationale for that cabinet reshuffle, and they accepted Nhlanhla Nene even though he was a new face. So exactly right. I don't think this is all about Pravin Gordhan, although he's gained a lot of credibility. Another issue is the huge questioning around why the president would do this, why he would do it now, why would he introduce, if he is going to, and I certainly have no confirmation of this, somebody like Brian Molefe, who was named in that report. So you're right, maybe the focus shouldn't be on one individual, but the process of replacing a key ministry like a finance minister and the way people are introduced, brought through the ranks, and it shouldn't be a surprise, many commentators would say, and I agree with this, you shouldn't be surprised by the finance minister because it's such a key and such a technical position. So I think a lot of the concern is around the motives behind this cabinet reshuffle and the timing and the individuals as well. It's a conglomerate of all of those things.
Francis, we'll have to leave it there for now. But Lou, let's look at that graphic. I mean, we saw a graphic up now of those currencies. Yes, I mean, obviously, the JC has closed now, but I mean, markets still carry on. And even Azar mentioned it, that 3% drop, since 8 p.m. And